carnivorous animal there is. It's just inefficient. You're essentially adding an extra step that you shouldn't be adding. Why not just eat the beef? When you eat the beef, or when you eat cows, you're not wasting that something on that extra step.
I literally told you about to say wasting XP.
Bro's been playing too much Minecraft.
Being efficient. It's about being efficient.
Yeah.
I've just played too much Minecraft. I haven't played Minecraft in like years now.
You need to play modded Minecraft.
Fuck no. I played the vanilla version because it's more fun this way.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. To me, it is.
No, it's not.
You do understand that the only reason Minecraft is successful is because of mods, right?
Yes, the only mods that I find interesting are ones that turn this thing into a super realistic simulation. That's it.
I love those.
Those are great. Cheers, Java Edition? That's good. That shit's fucking gold.
Yeah.
You want to automate easily? You do Bedrock Edition. But if you want to have like a great experience when it comes to like mods and you're gonna take Java Edition.
What's up, favorite?
What's up?
Hey, how you doing?
All right, I'm gonna live stream this Elon Musk podcast.
Oh yeah. Well, what?
No.
I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Okay.
I want to talk to you, but I want to talk to you later.
That'll be fine. It's a volcanic eruption in Hawaii. It's not a big deal.
Is it one of those populated islands, or is this, just your typical average dormant volcano?
Not sure I sent it to you.
No, it's Hawaii. Those volcanoes are always erupting.
Volcanoes, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm asking which island. You don't want a volcano erupting on an island that has like a fuck ton of people living on it.
Yeah, but I think usually it's not a big issue.
No, it's usually
because
not.
The ones that are like super big issues are the ones that are like suddenly explode. Right?
Yeah, like the one in Mount
Vesuvius?
Mount Helens.
From Mount Helens?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a really bad thing.
Yeah, this is Kilauea, the one erupting right now.
Oh.
Kilauea.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, I think should be fine.
that one's been
You're all looking forward to the moment when the super volcano underneath Yellowstone
this
erupts.
fucking guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's gonna
looking
fucking die.
forward. No, not everyone's.
No,
I think I'm more concerned about the subduction zone outside of Seattle.
Everyone's gonna die if that happens.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, the subduction zone in
Apparently, last time
Washington is a lot more of a threat, and that no one is really talking about. I actually worked on a project regarding the subduction zone, and Seattle is not prepared. So if it were to rupture, if there's like an earthquake in the subduction zone, everybody in Seattle is gonna drown.
Yeah.
Oh,
California's is literally sitting on the fucking San Andreas fault line. Like,
I
think they'll be okay.
I think the Yellowstone is a significantly bigger issue.
Yeah, but that's unlikely to,
Yeah.
really, yeah.
Well,
the subduction zone is a lot more likely to go fuck
I
up.
wouldn't say it's unlikely. It's about time it erupted anyway.
this guy.
No,
It's about time.
It's happening. We're gonna embrace the doom.
I'm not talking about it like that.
I know.
We're reaching at the time that it's going to erupt around that time anyway, if we take historical trends into account. So,
we should be more prepared for the Cascadia subduction zone. I mean, it's not that hard to prepare.
Yeah, we should be prepared for.
Nobody's prepared for it. That's a fucking issue. So the project I worked on.
I mean, they weren't even fucking prepared for the fucking fires in California, right?
True.
So
what the fuck am I about to find here?
You see the money that they took out of the LAFD. They took that money and they sent it to like transgender organizations. That was fun.
Oh, the homeless. The
homeless and the transgender. Yeah, there was a transgender outdoor walk cafe. They approved Bass, right? Karen Bass, she approved $100,000 to a transgender outdoor walk cafe, and that was money directly taken from the supposed savings from the LAFD. Good job, guys.
What the fuck?
Fantastic. Yep. if you want to watch a video on that, Emily, what's her name? Like Emily Saves America. She actually posted a video on it. Pretty good. She talks about all the fucking money they wasted.
Wow.
Yeah,
You're going on about savings, right?
The
You want to save money.
The California government also sets up like these luxury apartments for quote unquote homeless people. Under these non-profits.
Yep.
And you're like, well, why are they spending like this much money on luxury apartments, building new luxury apartments for homeless? Doesn't make any sense. And then you look into it, and it turns out eventually these luxury apartments can stop being used for homeless people, and it can actually be taken by the organization and sold.
Oh, with the grift. Nice.
Yeah, and they're being paid for by the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Free apartments. Nice. So it's the whole thing's a grift. They stay in the apartment for 2-3 years, whatever, short period of time, and then they shut them down, and then they resell them. Nice. I don't like what Newsom is doing, making it a law to make it illegal to even offer people money for their land. That's just straight up bullshit. I wouldn't even call it communism.
Wait,
I call it communism online.
Hold on.
Oh yeah. So all the property that got burned down, right?
Right.
Because he, under the guise of, we don't want BlackRock to buy up all this land. Sure, I get that part of it, right? But he's saying it is illegal to even offer any of these residents money for their land if it's undervalued. What the fuck does undervalued mean? Who sets a valuation? Like, if you're offering money for a piece of land or a house that's burned down, you're the one doing the valuation. You're the one hiring, whoever, right? Like whichever company that does the valuation, like insurance companies, to do the valuation. So who decides what is undervalued? The fucking state? And so you're not even allowed to sell your fucking property, is what he's saying. Yeah.
It gets recreated. It doesn't get stored. It gets.
I don't think people realize that when they vote for guys like this, when they put people like him in office, they're voting for something far worse than what they think they're getting. He masks everything he does under guise of virtue, like, I'm just protecting the residents so they don't get ripped off, right? I mean, that sounds good on the face of it, but what do the policies actually entail? Well, you're not allowed to sell your property. That's literally what he's saying. That the state now fucking owns your property. I mean, that's essentially what he's saying, and so.
Seems a tad bit unconstitutional, Spring.
If you play it all out, let's play this thing out. Who sets a valuation? Who's allowed to buy it? Well, the state is allowed to buy it back, right? That is what he's saying. That's what's really happening, is that the state of California is going to buy up all this land from people who want to sell their houses because they're all fucking burned down. And it's too expensive to even rebuild them due to all the red tape involved, right? So if you wanted to rebuild your house in California, good fucking luck. It's going to cost you millions of dollars just to do that, just to get it done. So the state's going to buy up all this land, and then what's it going to do afterwards? Well, it's probably going to sell it to fucking BlackRock. That's what's going to happen. So they're cutting the owners out of the deal is what they're doing. That's essentially what's happening. And they're pretending that it's about protecting all these homeowners. That's a fucking lie. And yeah, it is unconstitutional. You should be allowed to make an offer to buy someone's land. As to who decides it's undervalued, well, that's kind of in between. That's between you and the seller. That's all it should be. This idea that the state can step in and protect you, so quote unquote.
Even though they've been failing at exactly this for the past how many now? Wait a minute. You say you're going to protect me. What about all this crime that's been getting out of control? Ironically enough, though, I will say, they voted for these policies themselves. They voted for these policies. You can shit on the government all that you want. You can shit on them all that you want, right? I get it. But who voted for this? This is where the real play is going to be at. So here's what the problem is, right? So you remember when the mass exodus began a couple years back, where all the people moved from California because they foresaw all this bullshit happening? They moved from California to Texas. Remember that?
Yep.
I remember like places like Austin is super fucking liberal place now. I mean, it's great. It's a good thing that everything's still red, as it should be. Because, and there was a great point that was made. If you're gonna go there, this place is the way it is because people have voted a certain way. So if you go there from a place where you fucked up, you gotta vote a certain way, right? Because the problem would be if you're gonna immigrate now out of the state that you fucked up, by the way, as a voter, since you voted for this stuff directly, you fucked your state up. Okay? No one else is there to blame for that except you, because you voted for it. Alright? Let's not forget that. If you then go to another state because you want a do-over and then vote the same way there, well, guess what? You're going to fuck that place over as well. And it's not the fault of the people who are residing in that state. It's the fault of the people that went there from a state that they already fucked up. Now, with California, it's interesting. Now, I'm not going to harbor any kind of animosity or whatnots for people that have voted in a way that just doesn't make any sense. It's understandable. People don't get it sometimes. However, this is what these people need to consciously realize, because the next time somebody starts virtue signaling about who to vote for, they have to remember, wait a minute, isn't the reason why all this financial turmoil is present because we voted this way?
Yep.
There you go.
It's just like the UK, Everyone decided they were not going to vote for the Tories because the Tories kind of suck, right? But they allowed Labour to win, and Labour is so much worse. So much worse. And now they're all kicking themselves in the nuts because they didn't bother to go to vote for reform.
Yeah.
They only have themselves to blame for it. I feel sorry for the people who voted for Labour or voted for the Tories because at least they knew what was coming. But for everybody else...
With the UK specifically, there is the issue that you have the first past the post system, right? So if you have a situation, if you look at it, I think Labour only won like 30-something% of all votes, but they got like 60-something% of the seats. That's because of the first past the post system, because it was split up between the two parties, the Tories and
Labour.
I think UKIP.
Yeah.
UKIP.
Well, it's reform.
Was it reform?
It was reform.
Yeah.
UKIP doesn't really have representatives.
Yeah. So because of that, even though the Conservative side did technically get more total votes because of the first past the post system in the UK, Labour was able to get way more seats.
Yeah, they vote on a council per council basis. It's just like France. They use first past the post system. So every council, you're going to look at who wins the council seat, and they get to determine who wins. Unfortunate reality with that system is that when you have two conservative parties and they're neck and neck, and they probably have more voters combined compared to Labour, Labour still wins the council because they may only get 30% of the vote, but the other guys only got 20% each, right? So 40 versus 20, 40 versus 30. Well, let's just double the numbers. Labour does win the council, unfortunately. That's you see the same issue in France, where the vast majority of people did vote for Le Pen's party, but in that instance there was, I would say, shenanigans going on because all of the center and left-wing parties, meaning Macron's party and all the far left people, they decided that they were going to sort of trick the system to remove their own candidates from being voted on, because they realized, oh shit, because if we all run in the same district, or rather the same council, then Le Pen's party is going to win because, she has 50% of the vote. And if we split it up 25-25, they're going to win, right? First past the post system. So what they did was they said, hey, we're going to pull out our candidate from this district, but know that, you should vote for this far left people, even though you're on the center, you vote for the far leftist, and we will beat Le Pen's party. And that's exactly what happened. And that's how they were able to get the plurality of the votes.
Yeah.
It's that should not be allowed. Honestly, the sort of like, backroom deals where two parties talk to each other and they're like, yeah, we're going to pull out our candidates out of 50% of the seats and have you guys run here, and then we'll run at these other 50%, that way we win. That is some fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, those are great lessons to look at, realistically.
The lesson is that liberalism is a failed experiment.
I think classic liberalism kind of works in a sense, but the weakness of classic liberalism was the fact that they weren't preserving a lot of their own values. Ironically enough, the modern equivalent of a liberal, is turning into more of a conservative by execution than some of the actual conservatives. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
if you were to look at it this way, then you kind of start to see why liberalism in that sense failed, because they were not preserving any values. They weren't preserving.
Yeah, what is conservatism conserved? Yeah. Right?
So conservatism would have actually worked, except they, ironically enough, weren't conserving enough of their values also, right? So they were kind of the new liberals now, in a sense.
Yeah.
Dude, somebody people are going to hate me saying this. Holy shit. It's going to be great. But it's true.
Populism is the future.
It's true.
Populism is the future. If we look at what Bukele is doing, what Milei is doing, what Orban is doing, that's where things are. That's the only way anything can be governed properly, because you need a strong leader, right? You need a strong leader and a strong party.
Memes basically will win the day.
I don't believe liberalism works. I think that there's all these workarounds to make it work, and populism is like the only answer to it, because people will gravitate towards strength. They want a leader who can be strong and decisive. They don't want someone who panders to everybody, because then nobody's happy, right? That's what you have in the UK, where there's all this liberalism and, it's just shenanigans. It's just nonstop shenanigans, because the system by itself is just broken. It requires someone to step in, or rather, to manipulate the system into essentially voting for a dictator. That's kind of the only way liberalism can function.
Yeah, because but then again, there you go. There's the issue. You have dictatorship. You cannot have dictatorship, because that fucks up everything. At first, it's nice. Like, a dictatorship is great for as long as the dictator is democratic in their dictation of what needs to happen. But the problem is, the paradox of the dictator is that does not last, because the very idea of what dictatorship is goes contrary to the idea of whatever democratic process is.
Well, let's do monarchy. Bring back the Habsburgs.
I don't know. I don't know about the.
I like those guys. They are fucking based as hell. If you've ever spoken to them, they are fucking based as hell.
Hey, I'm not going to say anything about them. I don't really know anything about that. But realistically speaking, I mean, that hasn't really saved us much either, has it?
I mean, look at the UAE. It's a monarchy.
Okay, fair argument. Okay.
Yeah, and if you look at Singapore, it kind of is a monarchy.
I'd say UAE would make more sense as an example. Singapore is kind of not working anymore, is it? They have a different problem.
Kind of not. They've gravitated towards more liberalism now, and you have a lot of left wingers in the government in Singapore, and they're kind of fucking shit up.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm not criticizing, of course, any aspect of Singapore. I'm just saying it's a bit of a personal. But
if you want to look at a dysfunctional system, look at Japan.
Yeah.
Oh boy. That system is just a complete shit show. It's not as bad as South Korea, but man, they're different in many different ways, right? I know they're neighbors, but they're completely different. In Japan, you literally have 100 different parties, and none of them agree with anybody.
And the funniest shit is the dynamics. You watch the type of stuff that happens in Parliament there. It's more violent than even some of the. I sometimes watch parliamentary footage because I like to see how these people are going to insult each other. Taiwan
is hilarious.
Yeah, you're just watching it for the show more than the actual democracy here at this point. It's so ridiculous. People running off with policies and there's some shit going on there.
This happens in Ukraine too. Even before the war, right? When they actually held, state, they had people up on stage and stuff. They don't really do that as much these days. But back then, anytime you heard of parliamentary brawls, it would be happening in Ukraine, and it's just a shit show.
It's a fascinating shit show, I will say. I don't know, these things fucking funny as shit.
Too many different parties. None of them agree with anybody. They don't want to play nice. It's just just a complete mess. Italy has gotten a lot better. They used to be like that, but now you have a really strong right wing, and they're all united against united behind Meloni. She's united all of them. That's fantastic. We need to see more of that. She's a populist. And again, that's the only way a democracy can truly function is you have a strong leader. Argentina is doing the same thing. Bukele, obviously, I guess you could call him a dictator. It doesn't really matter. He's getting the job done, and that is fantastic. I see a lot of, there was this big post that went viral today from some Bitcoiner who opposes Bukele. He's like, those MS-13, he didn't mention them by name, but it's like, 1% of the population was arrested without due process. And I'm like, yeah, you don't really need due process for these guys because they literally have fucking MS-13 written on their goddamn foreheads.
Yeah.
You kind of know who these people are. And they don't deserve, quote-unquote, due process. Fuck these guys. They're animals. Oh, but our democratic principles. Fuck off.
Well, it didn't really work in this case. I mean, look, with
That's how it goes.
gangs
The
like
most
that, you
dangerous
have to
fucking
deal
place
with.
in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, you need to deal with forceful. You need to deal with this forcefully. There's no other way through it. It's an ugly process. It is not it's not good, but it kind of got this way because of a reason. So.
Leftism tore that country apart, just like it tore Argentina apart with their previous reign of left-wing leaders who were creating non-stop social programs and printing dollars.
Yeah.
And people talk shit about Milei, saying that he's not really democratic. He's dismantling all these governments. He's firing people.
I mean, you kind of have to do that, even with companies. It's the same thing, and it's good because it puts pressure on people in leadership as well, especially with things like that in government. Because as soon as there is a problem with leadership in which there has to be a type of how do I explain this? A type of understanding when it comes to power, right? So let's imagine that you have a bunch of people that themselves are more influential because they bribe everyone in the company than the very person that owns the company, right? That's going to be a problem and therefore destabilizes that company. Now, the only reason why things like these can exist is because people grow powerful and then exploit that power as much as they want. Now, in the case of, say, putting some pressure on your position, as in you can be replaced and will be replaced, is actually a bit of a good thing in this sense, especially when it comes to government, because then it weakens the position and it adds a bit of, again, pressure on it. Some people are genuinely unfit to lead. And so when they actually accrue enough power to the point where they are by execution a leader, then shit just goes ham. Like I've seen this many times, especially in companies. It's fucking annoying. People want power and they want leadership, but they don't actually understand how it all works, and they're not responsible with it, and so they just basically turn into narcissistic pieces of shit. And I have had to deal with this myself personally on various many levels. I have a lot of experience in this, and it's a problem. People that then degrade their fellow workers and do nothing to actually improve any situation, and are just genuinely full of themselves and are just assholes to everybody because they can afford to be, right? So it's like, okay, it's a bit of a problem. That same thing happens with government. That's why you need to get rid of some people in government by just firing some of them if they genuinely do not contribute any value to what is effectively a gigantic corporation, which is in fact what governments are supposed to be. They can't really turn a profit because it's a bit of a problem for them, but realistically speaking, they kind of should.
Yeah, they should.
I mean, they have to stimulate the economy. If they don't function like a company, then of course they cannot function as a country because it's basically a cooperative entity, which is your fucking company at this point. You're just a massive fucking company with a monopoly on violence. So that's the way it is.
I like how things are run in the UAE because it's essentially a corporation that's being, run by a ruling family, more or less. But they're profit-driven, right? If you're not creating profit for the company, you are not fit to be in the government. So everything here is geared towards progress and building up the country, whether it's Abu Dhabi or Dubai or anywhere else, any other city. Their goal is to make it as efficient as possible, to attract as many investors as possible, and to make the place a wonderful place to live in. You want to come here and live here, right? It is a goal that they've created. They've made it into, what used to be like the American dream back in the day, right? Before it turned into whatever shit show it is now. People want to move here, and they make it easy to move here, but you have to do well for yourself. So you contribute to the economy. Everybody here contributes to the economy, and they make a system designed around profit, right? About making everybody who lives here fucking wealthier and happier, and that's great. Like, it fucking works. Wow, imagine that. Imagine running a company that's actually geared towards the enrichment of the people who work there. Holy shit, what a novel concept. And the West has slowly devolved into, let's help our weakest and our poorest, and at the detriment of everybody else. To the point where, at one point, the Scandinavian economies were actually pretty good because they didn't have this migrant crisis that they have right now. Because back then, helping your weakest and poorest didn't really mean very much, right? Everybody had a really good standard of living. I mean, they still do, but they're slowly depreciating. But the people that they had to support, the so-called poor, or the people unwilling to work, there were just not very many of them, right? And you're socially encouraged to be a strong, good, efficient worker. That's just how things are. The Scandinavian mentality is all about being, useful, right? They're very hardworking people. That's why it's great to work with Scandinavian people. They are very hardworking people. But when you invite a bunch of people from like a complete different culture, doesn't matter from where, right, who don't share that mentality, who don't believe in contributing to the system, who just want to be parasites, then your system starts to fall apart.
It's like when you let a bunch of thieves into a high trust society. It's like, how do you picture that working out exactly? The answer is, it doesn't. Yep. So
that UK's like that, right? Remember when the UK used to be pretty fucking hardworking, and now everybody.
That's why you don't have
realization. Yeah, like in Britain, a lot of people just don't have jobs, not because they want to have jobs but they can't get them. It's because they see other people living like this, living like parasites, and they're thinking, why the fuck should I even work, right? This new generation of people who are anti-work, they see that other people from different cultures are mooching off the system, and they think, well, I'm going to do the same thing. It creates this, it's like an infection, right? It's a mind virus. And so you have this massive population of people that just don't want to work because they don't, first of all, like, the wages in the UK are just fucking terrible. So why the fuck would you want to work anyway? That's the funny thing. I don't even blame them for not wanting to work because there's no fucking point in it. Because if you make too much money, the government's going to tax you anyway. So it's like the system is so designed towards helping the so-called impoverished to the point where it's making people impoverished, and it's penalizing people for wanting to do something else.
I think someone gave me an example where they showed me that the support that the German government gave you was like more than what you could make in some cases after taxes were taken into account.
Oh yes, yeah, so that's true, yeah.
But it's literally like, why the fuck would anyone work knowing, from like scratch, knowing that they could just literally not do anything? And the German government would literally pay a higher amount than you could earn.
Finland does the same thing too. I actually know a number of people who they don't work. They just go to college for free, and they get paid a stipend to go to college for free. So what's the point of having a job when you can have like 5 master's degrees, right? And if you're content with your lot in life, you live in a decent-ish small apartment, you're not married, you don't raise a family, and you don't really want anything more than, say, a big screen TV and a PlayStation, that is literally your life in Finland. They give you money to just live, to exist, and, they call it, compassionate. But is it really compassionate? You're just keeping people down. There's no ambition. They don't have ambition.
And then there's the people that are like, these are human rights.
Yeah.
Right? To be provided housing, to be provided food, to be provided water. If it takes the work of another person, it's not a right.
Fucking slavery is what it is.
Yeah, you're basically
forcing
saying
hardworking people to work.
Someone else should work for my sake without me having to do any work. It should just it should just be provided for me. It's like the difference between negative and positive rights. They don't even understand that.
We should go back to charity and not have government subsistence programs.
Hell, I can't even have charity because all that shit's by fucking
Charity actually works because it comes from your own pocket, right? You decide if you want to help somebody, right? Society decides. Okay.
Oh yeah,
what does
where you want
society
the money to
want?
go,
Rather,
yeah.
people living
That
in
makes sense.
society.
Sure, but even there is like a lot of corruption. I myself, if I wanted to create actual change, fuck charity in a way. I will use it by
Yeah, I don't
investing in
get
something
charity
that's
anyway.
like giving your money away to charity is a weird mentality that was devised by the boomers so they could keep being selfish without admitting the fact that they're actually selfish. And then on top of that,
Yes.
like it's extremely stupid. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And then there are these.
No, I mean, it shouldn't even have tax breaks.
Honorable thing to fuck your generation over, like to fuck the next generation over. It's like, well, I worked hard for it, so you shall suffer the same thing. I'm like, so basically, you as a human being have fundamentally failed in every respect except for reproducing, because you haven't really left anything behind at all.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not leaving anything behind of value, then you've kind of failed in a very large respect. And anyone who disagrees with it,
I think you should have a.
if I don't leave something behind for people that is actually valuable, I myself feel as though I have failed.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
Human thing.
I feel like you
we
owe it to humanity to be the best version of yourself and to leave a footprint behind, to have a legacy.
Good footprint, by the way. You can't just like
A
dump
good
shit.
footprint, yeah. Can be fucking Adolf Hitler.
No, fuck that. Yeah, you don't want that.
You want to be Elon Musk, you want to be Henry Ford, you want to be someone who has contributed greatly to society, or even to a small extent, even if you work for one of these companies and you've contributed to society, you made it a better place, then you should.
Hey, what about being the engineer that wrote the fucking code?
Communism.
That is the wrote the code.
Communism has had a more positive impact than the things that these fucking boomers have done to our society.
Yeah.
That's how bad.
And we don't refer to all boomers, we just simply refer to most boomers. And if you think that that's like statistically unreasonable, I invite you to track the problems that have occurred within the last 20 fucking 30 years, and you'll understand a lot about the world and really hate it.
The boomer generation.
The problem with boomers is they benefited a lot from what their ancestors did. They lived off the profits of their ancestors, the benefits of it.
And then they turned around and they're like, we're not contributing any of these benefits to the future generations.
That's what's happening in the UK.
Entitled.
All these boomers in the UK, they don't vote, right? They watch their cities turn to shit and they think, well, I live in a 99% white place, like a little town. This doesn't affect me. Fuck voting. I'm just going to go have a vacation in Mallorca. Yeah, that is literally the mindset.
Yeah, it's insane, man. And even if they vote on something, they don't really look at it, and they don't have an actual opinion, and then they roast you for having a political opinion. It's like, well, I mean, we have a political opinion because we have an actual assessment that we've made, because if we don't make an assessment, we're all gonna fucking die. Not that you care, because you're not gonna be here to see the fuck up that you've actually contributed to.
Exactly.
You're gonna be long gone and all this happens, and yeah, I agree with you, man. You gotta be fucking glad that happens. Holy shit.
When these people become politically active, they're the ones marching outside to say immigrants are welcome, refugees welcome, right? They're the ones carrying the signs. Look at the people. Just look at a video of a protest in the UK, right, where they're holding up refugees welcome signs. Look at the age of the people there. They're all fucking boomers. They're all wealthy, right? Relatively wealthy anyway for UK standards. They live in nice houses. They live in nice neighborhoods. They don't have to deal with cities turning to shit.
Yeah. At least they didn't feel the impact.
Have you seen the video where it's like this guy goes up to people's houses, rich people's homes, and then he's like, do you support more immigrants coming in to the country? And they're like, yeah, and then he just brings in a truckload.
Oh yeah, that's so fucking funny, man. Like, oh hey, we support the immigrants, and it basically brings in a truckload of the fucking Mexicans and shit. It's fucking funny.
Yeah, and then they're like, would you be willing to take any of these people in? She's like, no.
Of course not. They make excuses too. Like the one in Australia that I saw from a few years ago, a guy goes and says, "Hey, do you support all the boat people coming in, right? The refugees from wherever the fuck?" And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely, bring in all of them." And it's like, okay, well, we got Ali over here. He's looking for a place to stay. He just landed fresh off the boat, and I was wondering if I could put you up in your house. You got a really nice big apartment here. It has like 5 bedrooms. So how about living in that? You don't have a family, and the person's like, "Oh no, I can't. I have people coming over." It's like, all right. Put Ali up in your room. I mean, what's wrong with it?
Yeah, the hypocrisy is just incredible,
He's got them policies, but you expect everybody else to do it. And they make excuses. They're like, well, the government can put them up in hotels. I guess that's what the government's doing now, right? Putting all these people up in hotels. I don't even blame the immigrants. They're looking for a better life. Good for them, whatever.
It's actually funny because, look, the only reason why the immigrants are there is because people are dumb enough to give them, all the financial aid. Okay, so that's a bit of their problem as well also. And then what's also interesting, I think, is when you actually have the immigrants there, they don't even like it. They don't even like the place. It's the funniest thing I've seen was a person who was part of the whole thing where they put them up in hotels in New York on the street complaining about how annoying America is. So it's like, that's fucking funny.
They complain about it's too cold, how their food doesn't taste very good. Like if you see the ones in Italy, right? There's a lot of fucking migrants there, right? All the boat people. And all they do is complain all day. All they do is protest all day, complaining about how, the food that they're getting 3 times a day, by the way, is just not good enough. It's tasteless.
Like the Gaza refugees in fucking Malaysia.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, they had a little bit
rioting in the hospital. It was very funny. Like, hey man, what are you doing there? Why would you?
It's too cramped.
I mean, you got alternatives? Clearly, do not, and this is the best they can do.
Clearly, they do.
Who should be giving you this on demand? So it's like, okay.
They want the German experience. They should have gone to Germany.
Yeah. What a fucking mess, man. What a fucking mess.
Yeah. There's a reason, places like where I live right now, and forever.
It's all a fucking disaster, honestly.
Yeah, it's like, where are we going to put these people? I like what the UAE does. It's like it sends these what do you call it, rescue operations and humanitarian operations to these very places, right? It sends them there, sends them food. That's how it's done. That's how you take care of refugees. You don't fucking invite them into your country and then have no place to house them. That's the problem. A lot of countries, the European countries, they invite all these people in, and there's no fucking room for them. There's no place for them. So they put them up in these expensive hotels. Someone makes a fucking $1 billion, like the hotel owners in the UK, they make a shit ton of money from government contracts. They take those contracts, and the entire town, which used to be like Scarborough, for example, right? Really nice place, basically a tourist destination, turns into complete shit overnight. In Ireland, it's even worse because the government moves them into these small towns where people didn't even consent to having them live there. So you have a little town of say 1,000 people, not very big, right? Very small. Literally overnight, you have 20,000 people coming in. Like, what? Like, how is that sustainable? That's not sustainable. You're literally changing the entire culture of this one small place that has 1,000 people living there with 2,000, 10,000 refugees living there overnight. And that's why you see, a lot of these roads are being blocked by the people living there. They're so pissed off that the government is forcing it onto them. And the only reason they're doing this is because the Irish government made a deal with the EU to take in refugees. These are people who landed fresh off the boat in Spain and in which, by the way, is being funded by the Spanish government of all things because they're nuts, they're insane. They're funding them to come in, and they won't send them back when they could easily send them back. Won't send them back. Send them over to goddamn Ireland, and the people there are just not happy about it. And Irish government's like, oh yeah, let's send in 50,000 more people.
There's a very easy way to, I think, to solve this. Take away the benefits, the government benefits. The money that you actually have to fucking work.
Yep. But they don't want to do that. The government itself is the one making these stupid policies. The government itself is making these rules.
If you commit any physical crime, any sort of violent crime, first time you get deported. If you become a citizen, you get your citizenship taken away.
Yeah.
What
does the EU do? It penalizes countries that don't want to take them in, Hungary in particular. Right?
Yeah.
Hungary doesn't want to take in all these refugees, and what do? They fine Hungary billions of dollars, or they withhold.
Right, Poland was.
And Poland, yeah. Although Poland is changing now because its current government 100% wants to take in refugees.
Yeah, but the thing is with the previous government wasn't even anti-immigration, right? Poland was actually one of the easier countries in the EU to immigrate to if you were a worker. It was just this issue with even under the previous government, right? It's just with the refugees. Yeah, the refugees they had an issue with.
Yeah, that's right. You can still move to Poland pretty easily as a worker, right?
Yes.
Yeah. People don't seem to understand that. They don't seem to make the distinction between people who genuinely want to go to a country and work there for a company there, or actually have a life there and bring money in, right? They don't make that distinction between those people and the quote-unquote refugees, the economic refugees who are coming from places like Pakistan or whatever, right? And everybody's lumping everybody in together. The fucking racists don't help. The racists are like, oh, we hate all immigrants. Like, okay, you guys are like missing the point here. Because, for instance, Germany, before it went crazy, it had, or still has, a lot of Turkish migrants, but they are truly, truly German. They want to live there and they want to work there. Those are good migrants. You want those types of migrants there. But instead, they're like, oh yeah, let's just let in, 1 million Syrians, 2 million Syrians who are, who don't share their culture, who don't want to work. And there's, I'm not trying to like do a blanket, claim about all Syrians. No, I know a lot of Syrians and they're wonderful, hardworking people. But those are the people who want to work, who go to countries where they go there to work. They're not there because they're quote unquote refugees, Like where I live, there's tons of Syrians here, but they're good people, hardworking, respectful. Nothing bad to say about them. But these are not the same kinds of people that you find in, in Germany. And the reason is pretty simple, because here you're required to follow law, you are required to have a job. You can't just come in and mooch off the system because there's no system to mooch off of. There's no benefits. Japan has this problem where it had invited way too many Kurds during the 1990s. They had some sort of agreement to invite, essentially like hundreds of thousands of Kurds to live there. And when they live in Japan, they get all these benefits. And if you look at what's going on in one of the cities there, I think it's Saitama, they're rioting pretty much every day, right? They want more benefits, and they want even more of their families there. It's actually kind of insane. And so that system doesn't work, and now you have this uprising of Japanese nationalists. That's why you see a lot of Japanese nationalists entering parliament, because they're fucking tired of it. They're tired of the liberal policies that have essentially made Japan less Japanese. And if I say anything about Japan, the reason why Japan is so fucking great is because it is Japanese, not because it's quote-unquote multicultural. Multiculturalism works.
By the way, guys, what do you think? Shall we keep going for a while longer, or are we?
Yeah, let's keep going. Yeah,
because I may have to go through a dead zone at some point. It's a little bit of off-roading that I have to complete.
So how's it, guys' days today? What you guys do? Anything new? Anything creative?
Creative? Wow, no, I wish.
We're keeping things relatively chill and neutral at the moment. That's kind of the vibe we're trying to go for.
I bought some books.
Internet civil war is exhausting, We need a break. We need a break.
We need a break. We need a massive break. We can't keep doing this anymore.
You have to fill in the silence with just waffling. That's the way Trump speaks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got a waffle. Waffling's good.
Where
People say I'm the best waffler ever.
not there because they're
just put on some YMC. Yay.
benefits.
Energy. And we need to cut it down to net zero. But they don't have the technology to do net zero. They're unwilling to do it. They're unwilling to invest in large scale projects, right? I don't think we'll see a CERN 2.0 anytime soon because they're stupid. They're just dumb. Which is like, you know, there is a technology we can easily make, you know, gigantic solar farms and produce energy on the cheap. That's what they're doing here in the UAE. It's fantastic. They just launched a project here, billions of dollars worth, and it's awesome. It's going to produce a shit ton of megawatts, right? But persistent energy, by the way, because they have like something like 19 megawatts of storage. That's nuts. That's like the largest in the world. And that's what they need to be doing, right? If you want to move to sustainable energy, that's what you need to do. But they're unwilling to even spend that sort of money in Europe. Instead, all the money is going towards social programs and pensions and all this crap. And meanwhile, you just tax people higher and higher, like the UK. Oh, let's increase taxes on people so you can afford pensions. Okay? What about the next generation? They're not going to have a pension, you know? At that point, that money's going to run out. They don't have jobs. They won't have pensions because now they have pensions because that's what they need taxes for. And they are continuing to throw money at a broken system. That's the NHS, right? It's literally like the biggest money waste. And they're unwilling to reform the NHS to be more efficient. So people are getting paid less and less. System keeps breaking down and they keep throwing money at it. And it's just, you know, it's a catastrophic decline.
Yeah, but why aren't we going solar? Like, is it an economical thing, or?
What do you mean?
Well, like, if there's a power deficit, why aren't they just going, like, nuclear and solar?
Because the Greens, the Green parties in Europe are insanely anti-nuclear. That's why. They don't have a reason for it. They just cite Chernobyl.
I was about to say that Chernobyl fear.
It's fucking stupid. It's just stupid.
It's completely irrational as well. I mean, that should happen because of monumental failure on multiple levels on behalf of the people who are supposed to actually make sure that none of those failures would occur. So it's like, that whole story is a lot deeper, and it's a lot stupider, a lot shittier than people actually understand. They just understand the, radiation everywhere, massive zone we can't walk into, that type of thing. That's all they know. But they don't actually know how it happened. They know basics as to how normally things like that would happen, and the principles behind that to an extremely basic extent, but they have no idea what led up to it.
Yep, it was systemic failures.
Green test
Bureaucracy,
odds or
weird
something.
shit.
Hell, you try to we have very good nuclear reactors in the modern day. You try to make that shit melt down, it just won't. It just won't happen.
Impossible.
At first, people are doing this thing where where they created this visual of the nuke, right? So there are two visuals that you always see are placed in parallel with something like a nuclear power plant. You talk about anything climate problems, specifically that wording, they put an image of the cooling towers, nuclear cooling towers there. Complete bullshit, by the way, because it just looks impressive, right? And that is their enemy. Now, when you look at, say, when they want to discuss the possibility of a meltdown, what iconography do they always use? A fucking mushroom cloud. First of all, fuckface, that doesn't happen. If there is an explosion, it doesn't make a mushroom cloud like that, because that's not what a nuclear reactor is designed for. Even at meltdown, it can't do this because it's not built to be a bomb. If you want to create a ginormous city-flattening mushroom cloud, you need to specifically design a mechanism to do exactly that. Newsflash, by the way, a nuclear power plant is the exact opposite of such a system. It tries to slow down and manage the reaction as much as possible, whereas the other system that is a bomb is actually an implosion, by the way, which tries to maximize the chaos effectively.
Not to mention that a lot of countries have nuclear power plants, but so many fucking countries have literally had to risk everything to create a nuclear weapon. Right? You're telling me these dickhead countries that built these fucking nuclear power plants somehow can't figure out how to make nuclear bombs? Oh, just take the fucking nuclear power plant and put it in a bomb, and that's fucking... Doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
Again, like, he really wants to make it explode.
Making a nuclear weapon is insanely difficult.
Even the crude one that they made, I mean, like, even on it, me explaining how it would work is an extremely basic explanation. You take two different, components, and you smash them together, and you try to make sure that the fission process, which then is a result of that smashing together, happens as intensely and as quickly as possible. Nuclear reactors are the opposite of this. Direct opposite. Yeah. You have to intentionally, you have to create effectively directional explosives that allow for the smashing together of those two components to occur. So, technically speaking, one of those nuclear explosions is actually, from the starting point, an implosion, then explosion.
It's interesting.
Speaking of implosions, by the way, there's this really cool effect that happens where, like, there's a little animal that's underwater, a little crayfish fucking looking thing that can punch so hard that it creates light.
Yeah. I know exactly.
Singularity. I'm kidding. How cool is that?
Yeah. There's also another effect of, like, you create a small implosion, it creates light. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you guys see if you watched, what is it? Rogue One? I'm not sure if it was called Rogue One, Star Wars. There was like a specific scene where they were trying to steal some sort of fuel supply off a train and it exploded. There's a very special visual effect that moved outward like a bubble and then imploded. By the way, that was actually a practical effect. That is a slow motion explosion underwater.
Cool.
That's what that was. I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute, this is really cool. And I looked at the breakdown of it, there's like, actually, they had a small slow-mo explosion underwater, because that's what happens. When you have an explosion underwater, it blows up, creates this perfectly round bubble, depending on, of course, what kind of explosive you use, and then it implodes again, and it has this very cool, shocking effect, because it implodes, explodes, until there's like no energy to basically support the explosion and implosion. So it's like in waves. So that's what that looked like. Pretty cool.
Because the waves collapse. I mean, not the waves. The water collapses inward, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you create a space, the water collapses, and then because the water collapses and it creates pressure, it expands again, and then collapses, expands again, collapses, and each and every time there's a collapse, the expansion, the energy dissipates.
Yep.
So yeah, pretty cool.
There's a new rule, by the way, in X communities. I'll read it out. Because I'm part of the some sort of like X thing. It said all communities must comply with X's rules. Specifically, the violations listed below will result in permanent suspension without warning, including for administrators. And here's one thing. Communities involved in platform manipulation, such as engagement farming, e.g. follow for follow, or illegal activities, actions that violate X's rules, will be suspended along with their administrators. No warning will be given.
Nice. Yeah, we don't engage in such things. We actually ban people that do this. Whenever I see somebody do follow for follow in our community, instant out.
Yeah, that's done, yeah.
Yeah, like, you don't do that. I'll give you, like, maybe one chance, but realistically speaking, depending on how angry I am in that day, you're out 90% of the time. You're not doing this. You're not doing follow for follow. Fuck that shit. You grow naturally as you're supposed to. You don't get to manipulate platforms. You can't, the fake it until you make it strategy is not real. If your follower account is just a number that doesn't engage with you, then it is, by execution, effectively useless, and you may as well have none.
Yeah. Other rules include child exploitation, well, that's a given, and doxing other users.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, if you're wondering what happened to those fucking groypers, they engaged in child exploitation and doxing other users.
Damn. That's pretty crazy. Ironic, isn't
Like,
it?
oh, free speech, well, free speech. It's like, yeah, you don't have the free speech to.
Like, doxing is not free speech. People need to understand that. Doxing is not free speech. Abusing children is also not free speech either. And if you make an argument in favor of both of those things, you are a piece of shit.
Yep. Like
Society should tame you. But society is kind of fucked, so it's not gonna, but we will.
There were like two individuals, PD and Errol Morgan. Their kids were essentially photoshopped into sexually exploitative images by the groypers, and that is why they were all banned.
It's disgusting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to agree with these guys politically or anything, I don't like Errol Morgan's politics, really. Terrible. But doing that to a child? Yeah, no, that's a fucking bannable offense. Sorry. Not sorry.
Eagle.
It's fucked up.
Yes, the fact that they're never
Hands off the kids, and don't dox people. It's not that hard.
Exactly. Yeah. And if I have to hear any single one of these people complain about doxing or an insufficient reaction from X's side on removing those doxes from the platform, I don't want to fucking hear it. I was subject to this too. I was a quote-unquote victim. I don't consider myself a victim. This act was perpetrated on me also. Do you hear me complain? No. Other platforms will leave this information up because they're shit. X doesn't do that. It actually has a thing called standards. That's why most of the politicians and everyone is important and anyone in tech is here. Mm-hmm. You don't see that anywhere else.
German government
echo chamber. Yeah, I saw the whole thing with the army. They're actually pulling out, which is ironic. Like, I mean, why? Oh, wow, because there's such negative feeling. Like, wait, hang on. Are you saying that you are so afraid of citizens complaining under your thing that you have to remove yourself from the platform so you don't get subjected to the complaints of your citizens? Wait, what?
It's the social media managers. It's like something like all their colleges and universities are pulling out of X because they don't like the disinformation. And the ironic thing is, they're all going to like different platforms. Right? You see some of them going to Blue Sky, you see some of them going to Mastodon, some of them are headed to Threads, and they're kind of just losing all of their followers really because nobody's going to follow them. I mean, why the fuck would
they're about to realize a very important lesson? They're about to realize a very important lesson in networking and how all of that works in network states in general. They're about to realize something very interesting, especially when you consider, like, here's the thing. I always like to use Jan LeCun as a great example of this because there is hardly anyone more petty than this guy, which is just funny in some way because he's sustainably petty in an unsustainable fashion, which is very strange, but I'll explain to you how. So this guy doesn't want to post here on platform. Yet, what he does is, in order to avoid, quote-unquote avoid, post on the platform, what he does is he posts his content on LinkedIn and then links the LinkedIn post on the platform. So by execution, still technically posting on this platform, saying that he's not back, even though he is, and just kind of like bringing the attention from X to LinkedIn to his content on LinkedIn. Because, ironically enough, even though he doesn't realize it, the networking on LinkedIn is so bad that that's the only way that anyone would see that. Because if he went there and just stopped posting on X, nobody would notice except for a few niche people, and nobody would know where he's posting. Like, even if it's on LinkedIn, nobody's gonna go there because it's a boring fucking app where people just use it for engagement farming and just spreading corporate brain rot, which is like the most inferior version of brain rot. I have more respect for Skippity Toilet Sigma whatever the fuck brain rot than I do for corporate brain rot from LinkedIn. I'd rather have that over corporate brain rot from LinkedIn. That shit is so fucking disgusting and has literally zero purpose and is not even entertaining. It's just fucking stupid. It's turbo cringe. It makes my fucking skin curl.
Embarrassing.
Anyways, by the way, you guys, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna be entering a dead zone, and I'm gonna be doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I will be back. Sorry if it was a bit of a short one today. Tomorrow will be a bit of a longer one. I will, however, also be doing a live stream, maybe later today, but we'll see. All right, just keep your eyes peeled on the timeline. Sorry if I'm cutting this a little bit short, but got a few things I need to do. So I'll be back either in a few hours, posting a couple memes, posting a couple takes, you know how it is, or I'll do a live stream. We'll see. But until then, most likely I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you all for coming today. This was awesome. Turn notifications on for me, and follow anyone here you resonate with, and then we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful night.
Good night. Make sure to subscribe to me. It only costs $12 a year. It's like basically nothing. And don't be in the web. Apple's a piece of shit that makes 30% of literally zero work. Bye-bye. You guys